Imagine walking into a coffee house in the 17th century. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. For just 1 penny, you're not only getting a cup of this new exotic drink, you're entering a world where ideas collide, debates rage, and revolutions are born. These coffee houses were known as penny universities. But what made them so powerful, so transformative, that they changed the course of history? Stay tuned, because you're about to uncover the surprising impact of these humble coffee houses and the intellectual firestorms they ignited. In the mid-1600s, coffee was still a relatively new phenomenon in Europe. Originating in the Arab world, it quickly spread across the continent, captivating the masses with its unique flavor and stimulating effects. But it wasn't just the drink itself that caused a stir. It was where it was served. Coffee houses were popping up all over England, and they weren't your typical taverns. In these establishments, alcohol wasn't the focus. Instead, coffee, a drink that sharpened the mind, became the star. These coffee houses quickly became known as penny universities, a term you probably haven't heard before. For just a penny, people could sit down with a cup of coffee and be part of a buzzing intellectual scene. What made these coffee houses stand out? Well, they were open to anyone, from scholars to merchants, from poets to politicians. These places were the ultimate melting pot of society, where the only price of entry was curiosity. Picture this: groups of men, and yes, back then it was mostly men, would sit together and discuss everything under the sun. Science, philosophy, politics, and even the latest gossip. They were the internet of their day, where news spread like wildfire. Did you know that some of the biggest ideas of the 17th and 18th centuries came out of these coffee houses? For example, one of the most famous patrons was Isaac Newton, who regularly visited the coffee houses of Cambridge. It's said that some of his groundbreaking ideas about gravity were sparked during these coffee-fueled conversations. One particularly famous coffee house, called Lloyd's Coffee House, eventually evolved into what we now know as Lloyd's of London, one of the world's largest insurance markets. That's right, a business empire that insures everything from ships to skyscrapers began as a casual meeting spot for sailors and merchants. This is something most people don't know, that some of today's most powerful institutions have their roots in the simple conversations that took place over a penny cup of coffee. But it wasn't just business and science that thrived in these coffee houses. Political debate was rampant too. In fact, so much so that the government started to worry. In 1675, King Charles II attempted to shut down the coffee houses, fearing they were breeding grounds for rebellion. He called them places where the disaffected met and spread scandalous reports concerning the conduct of His Majesty and his ministers. Imagine that! The king himself was so scared of the discussions happening in these coffee houses that he tried to close them all down. Of course, that didn't work, and the coffee houses remained open, continuing to fuel not just conversation, but also social and political change. One of the things that made these penny universities so special was the incredible access to knowledge they provided. Back in those days, formal education was out of reach for most people. Universities were expensive and exclusive. But in a coffee house, for just a penny, you could engage in debates, hear the latest scientific discoveries, and even rub shoulders with some of the greatest minds of the age. In fact, many considered the conversations in these coffee houses to be more valuable than a university lecture. It wasn't uncommon to see a scientist debating with a merchant or a poet arguing with a philosopher. These discussions weren't just confined to small talk. They were deep, thought-provoking, and often led to major breakthroughs in thought. In a way, the coffee house democratized knowledge. It made learning and critical thinking accessible to the common man. As the 17th century gave way to the Enlightenment, coffee houses continued to play a central role in European society. These penny universities became the epicenters of what we now call the Age of Reason, a time when logic and science began to replace superstition and tradition. They were in many ways the birthplace of modern intellectual discourse. So next time you sip on your coffee, think about how that simple cup might have fueled the revolutionary ideas that changed the world. Whether it was the formation of Lloyd's of London, the philosophical musings of great minds, or the spark of political revolution, the humble coffee house was where it all began. If you've enjoyed this journey into the past and want to uncover more fascinating stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We dive deep into history's hidden gems, and there's always something new to discover. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode.